Welcome everyone to our Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022 regular closed session meeting of the East Bay Mud Board of Directors. In accordance with Government Code 54953C, this meeting will be conducted by webinar and teleconference only. The physical location has not been provided for this meeting. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Director Coleman.
Present.
Director Katz.
Present.
Director McIntosh.
Here.
Director Mellon.
Present.
Director Patterson.
Present.
Director Young.
Yes, here.
President Lenny.
Here. For public comment, if members of the public are online and wish to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. Is there anyone for public comment?
I don't have any hands at the moment. Okay, I have one person for public comment online. Okay.
All right. When prompted, please state your name, affiliation if applicable, and topic. Please refrain from providing any personal information such as addresses or phone numbers during public comment. If we need this information, we will have you contact staff. The secretary will call each speaker in the order received. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak. However, I have the discretion to amend this time based on the number of speakers. As the secretary will track time and inform each speaker when the allotted time has concluded.
Okay. And we have Yvette Rivera. Yvette, you should be able to unmute your mic.
Thank you, Risha. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you. I just want to start off by saying that several, I guess, noteworthy things happened in the last week regarding 2 federal lawsuits filed against East Bay Mud. I didn't notice anything on the agenda for the closed board meeting today. So since the Office of General Counsel apparently didn't find it newsworthy, I will be submitting 2 sets of documents, one for the Mersad Hardrow case and the other for the Saji Pierce and Ariel Bland case against East Bay Mud. Maybe General Counsel's office, Derek McDonald's office, planned on talking about it today, but it wasn't on the agenda as required by the Brown Act. So in terms of the Mersad Hardrow case, last Tuesday or on the 17th, the Ninth Circuit Court, because Mr. Hardrow didn't file against East Bay Mud's motion to dismiss, they dismissed it based on failure to prosecute. I just have to add that they didn't go with East Bay Mud's request for sanctions, so they denied sanctions against Mr. Hardrow. The 3 documents that I'm going to provide, actually it is 3. One, Mr. Hardrow's civil rights complaint against the district that he filed in May 13, 2019, and the motion to dismiss filed by Apex Employment Law and East Bay Mud. The reason why I'm providing that to the district, I think it would be a really important tool for current East Bay Mud employees so that they can see what East Bay Mud stated as reasons for dismissing Mr. Hardrow's complaint. The other case that happened, or that was newsworthy as far as I was concerned, was the Saji Pierce and Ariel Bland case. And I'll be submitting 2 documents for that. Just last Friday, there was a further case management conference, and the federal court submitted the minute entry for that lawsuit against East Bay Mud. I'm going to submit that minute entry to public records today, and I'm also going to submit the conference management statement that lists the dates for the trial. And unless something changes, the pre-trial conference is going to happen March 17th, 2023. That's only months away. And the trial is going to happen on March 27th. 2023. I'm going to close off my statement about that and just say that I managed to glance at Derek McDonald's memo to the board today about Public Records Act. And I will respond to his memo at a future time. Thank you for your time.
All right, do we have any other speakers?
No other hands for public comment.
All right. Then we will convene closed session to discuss closed session agenda items. We're scheduled to return for our regular meeting at 1:15 p.m. Okay. We're ready to start the meeting. Welcome everyone to our Tuesday, August 23rd regular business meeting of the East Bay MUD Board of Directors. In accordance with the Government Code 54953E, this meeting will be conducted by webinar and teleconference only. A physical location has not been provided for this meeting. We will receive reports from the July 22nd Upper McCollum River Watershed Authority meeting, the August 10th Los Vaqueros JPA meeting, and this morning's Finance Administration Committee meeting under item 14. A roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Director Coleman.
Present.
Director Katz.
Present.
Director McIntosh. Director Mellon.
Present.
Director Patterson.
Present.
Director Young.
I'm here.
President Lenny.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. There are no announcements required from closed session. We're on to public comment. If members of the public are online and wish to speak on agenda or non-agenda items, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. Comments on non-agenda items will be heard at the beginning of the meeting, and those on agenda items will be heard when the item is up for consideration. Madam Secretary, are there anyone online for?
At the moment, I have one hand for public comment. Kelly A. You should be able to unmute your mic. Your 3 minutes start now.
Hi, this district has embarked on this bold policy, probably very similar to what you did a few years ago, of hunting down and penalizing all those water wasters out there, up there in the hills, in the rainforests of the hillsides that are using massive quantities of water. And the same thing's happening in Southern California. They're a little bit ahead of us. In Calabasas, people like Kim Kardashian and Sylvester Stallone are massively wasting water, much like people do everywhere, if they have enough money. And what's interesting about their situation is that they're on the front page or on the middle section of the Los Angeles Times. They're being singled out for notices of exceedance for their violations, and they're going to being penalized, and they're being threatened with restrictive measures. All of these is right down the path for East Bay MUD, because you have mailed approximately 13,000 courtesy notices, and you sent out 1,300 warning letters as of last month. And you're going to be sending out more of them as we speak. Now, your staff is telling you, this board, that the violations notices are going to be going out towards this end of this month, and you're discussing about how to deal with the public records process, how to hide the records, to try to keep the names of the customers who are applying for appeals against landing in the front page of the newspaper. Not so easy to do if Kim Kardashian, Sylvester Stallone, and all those people are on the front page of the LA Times, and the LA Times knows how to get a hold of those records, and maybe the San Francisco Chronicle does too. Really, what's going on in LA is I disagree with it. And I would also disagree with putting the names of people that are operating the rainforests in Oakland or Berkeley or Lafayette or Orindo or Moraga. I disagree with putting their names on the front page of the newspaper too. I think this district needs to reconsider these policies and look at water conservation on a global level, and not try to drill down to each individual customer, as is district policy at this very moment. Very ill-considered, very unwise, very aggressive, and very poorly thought out policy. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment.
We have one additional hand for public comment. We have a couple of hands right now. Yvette Rivera, you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I first want to start off by congratulating Director Coleman on his upcoming appointment to the East Bay MUD Board of Directors, because he ran without any competition. I do want to mention that I saw the lawsuit that Director Coleman filed against East Bay MUD because of the hardship created by East Bay MUD personnel that made a mistake about his retirement calculations. I hope that you prevail, Director Coleman. It sounds like the Board of Directors just has to sign off on it. I do hope that other East Bay MUD employees will be able to capitalize on the same issue if you do prevail. I'm just going to summarize what I said at the first two meetings this morning. I spoke about the two federal lawsuits that were discussed in federal court this past couple of weeks, but it wasn't on the East Bay MUD closed board agenda today. I spoke about submitting 5 documents related to the federal cases that were, I guess, deliberated these past 2 weeks. One was the Mirsad Hajro case. I provided 3 documents: his complaint, the district's response to his complaint, and the Ninth Circuit decision. I provided the district's response because I think it's a great textbook for employees currently at East Bay MUD on what they need to do to ensure that they get their rights around FMLA and reasonable accommodations. The other case was the Saji Pierce and Ariel Bland case. There was a hearing on August the 12th. There wasn't an agenda item today on that hearing, but I did provide that hearing note and the schedule for the upcoming trial that will be held in May. I think it's May or March of 2023. Let me just look at that. That's March of 2023. The trial is on March 27, 2023. Pretrial conference is March 17, 2023. That's all I have for right now. I just want to say the CPRA memo that General Counsel wrote to the board today, or gave to the board today, I will discuss at a future meeting. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, other
We have,
comment?
yes, we have George Cleveland. George, you should be able to unmute your mic. Your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you, Risha. Good afternoon to the members of the board and the general manager and anyone else who's in the meeting. I'm George Cleveland. I'm the chief steward of Local 2019. And about what Yvette said, I'm going to build a little bit upon that with the Public Records Act, that memo. I'm a little, I guess, concerned and somewhat disappointed at the analysis of it, especially as it relates to grievances, even though things are redacted if they're put out for public record. That's, to me, I find that problematic. Mainly because a lot of our grievances are related to things of the disciplinary nature. And when we see those things, those documents are marked confidential, and they're sent confidentially. And a grievance is a document that challenges that discipline. And it is puzzling that that particular document is not afforded the same protection as what it's challenging, the documentation of the discipline, which is confidential. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it does have a bit of a chilling effect, because I did not know these were subject to public records request. And now when I am filing grievances on behalf of my members, I need to let them know about this. Yes, it will be redacted, and I will explain that, but I am concerned that people will be not quite as eager to file if they can, if their records are out there, because even if they're redacted, people who have some knowledge can figure out what it's about and who it's about. So I would think that I would hope that general counsel would reconsider what they have put out in that memo, because I don't think that, like I said, if I'm challenging something that's of a confidential nature, I would think that the challenging documents would be treated as confidential as well. And it just, to me, that just seems logical and common sense. So that's what we're looking at. And hopefully that that policy or that interpretation can be reconsidered, because it affects employees who are represented. It actually affects all employees, whether they're represented or not, if they want to file a grievance. So I think that they should have the same layer of protection and coverage as those other documents that were cited in that memo. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, John.
George, happy birthday.
Well, thank you, Director Coleman. I was dealing with something the other day with folks, and I said, please get this resolved, because I don't want to have the board try to sing happy birthday to me, because it'll be off key and it might damage the public's hearing. I'm kidding,
Oh,
of course.
so you have so little faith.
I can assure
But thank you, Director Coleman, for the birthday greetings.
And
I
for
do
that, I'm
appreciate
going to
it.
lead.
I'm not singing. You can leave the room. I sang.
Happy birthday, George.
That looks like our last speaker for public comment on non-agenda items.
All right, no speaker in the room.
No speakers in the room.
All right, so we're on to items, consent calendar. Sorry, I skipped ahead here. And I think we are going to pull items 3 and 6 because we have a speaker on them. Are there other items that need to be pulled?
I'll second.
John, did you have?
I had a comment. I'm fine with the motions being made. Specifically on items 4 and 5, I mentioned this in the Finance Committee meeting this morning and to Clifford yesterday. I know that a lot of the costs are going up for various reasons, inflation, supply chain, and things of that nature. And so we did talk about it. I wanted the board this morning as part of the audit that Barry presented to have a system design so when we get questioned by the public, we can answer it with some sense of understanding why the costs are going up, what the contracts may have been, what they are now, and the reason costs are going up. Because we have inflationary pressures, we have supply chain issues that are all adding to this, and the public is going to start asking questions, I suspect. I mean, I've had some people, but in general, as the costs continue to go up, what the if we can have maybe monthly or whatever, a system of a memo talking about what contracts were approved at, why we're increasing it by whatever amount in the dollar amount, and why we're increasing them.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that we provide information that's helpful for the board. So right now we do provide semi-annual updates as part of the budget process that includes information on the operating budget and in particular on why we're seeing increases. And then that we do provide information in the BD1s when we see increase, whether it's supply chain issues and whatnot. And so if it will be helpful for the board, maybe what we could do is use the existing budget updates, the semi-annual, and we can summarize what's in the BD1s as far as, here's the engineer's estimate and here's the bid price, and just take the information that's in the BD1 in that document, because it's understandable it's probably difficult for you to pick out of every BD1 that information. So if that would be helpful for the board, we can do that.
So you're talking twice a year then, semi-annual?
Yeah, just to be aligned with the existing documents that we update the board with in terms of the budget.
Okay, again, just as we have inflationary pressures, I think the public may need to understand better why we're doing some of the things that we're doing and what the economic drivers are and what's causing us to have to do that. That's my opinion. But semi-annually would be great.
Okay, we can do that.
All right, so we have a motion, I think it was moved by Lisa, seconded by, don't remember now, Frank? Marguerite.
We both said it at the same time, whichever.
Okay.
Flip the coin.
I will then, I'll just choose Director Young, and then, all right, can I have let's see, everyone's present here, so we can do this by voice. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, carries unanimously. Item 3 then, we have a speaker for that?
Yes. Beverly, you're online. I am promoting you to panelist. You should be able to see on your screen that you're being promoted to panelist. Thank you. Okay. And your camera is off, but your mic is on.
I'm here, let me see, try to okay.
Thank you. So one moment, Beverly. We had Eric Larson. Eric, did you want to speak on item 3? Yes. Okay. So we pulled it so that Eric could speak on item 3, and Beverly is probably available to answer questions, possibly? Okay. So we'll take Eric's comments, and then if there are any questions, Beverly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President Lang, General Manager Chan, and Board of Directors. My name is Eric Larson. I'm President of AFSCME Local 444. AFSCME 444 objects to contracting out slurry waste management. In the course of our regular and routine work of operation and maintenance of district facilities and infrastructure, the district employ vacuum excavators to dig and excavate, especially around utilities and hard-to-access pipe. Vacuum excavators daily produce slurry waste that must be managed. You can't just dump it on the ground. You need tanks to separate and remove the liquid portion for discharge at SD1. Then the solids can be handled similar to trench spoils. AFSCME 444 objected 3 years ago when the district proposed to contract out slurry waste management. In particular, 444 objected to contracting out the operation and maintenance of the slurry waste tank. This should be union work, but management persisted and proceeded with a, quote, pilot project to evaluate the effectiveness of the approach and long-term staffing needs for slurry management. That was written in your 2019 BD1. Management came back to us this year and told us that, quote, district stakeholders confirmed staff and equipment were not available to assist with slurry management. In fact, they even told us that, quote, although 444 classifications may be capable of performing some aspects of this work, slurry management is not consistent with the normal activities of the district. Therefore, no formal contracting out notice will be sent. We know that the district doesn't have extra operators or extra laborers hanging around waiting for work. You need to add those positions. And labor is a district stakeholder. Labor objects to contracting out this regular and routine work. This is union work, and AFSCME 444 demands to bargain over these union jobs. Use of vacuum excavators will only increase in the future. Generation of slurry waste will only increase at the district, and the district needs to manage this waste. It is not going away in 5 years. It is continuous and ongoing, and AFSCME 444 demands to bargain over this regular and routine work. We ask you to reject this $5 million contract and tell management to come back to the table with 444 to create union jobs for union work. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think you mentioned 5 million. It's a 5-year, almost 8 million. Is that right? Contract?
Yeah, it's almost 8.
Yeah. So I'd be interested certainly to hear staff response on this.
Mike Ambrose is here to respond.
All right, good afternoon. Yes, as Eric mentioned, this is a waste that is produced by the district. Vacuum slurry and other slurry waste is generated as we install and repair our infrastructure. Similar to asphalt pavement and concrete and soils. So we have to properly dispose of all these materials. In the case of, say, asphalt, pavement, and concrete, we would take that to an outside entity that recycles that material. In the case of this slurry, there is no such business that we can take it to centrally. So we've worked with a contractor to set up an operation on our facility that takes this slurry waste. We've actually talked to other companies about creating a regional center where we could take this waste and process it, but that has not come to fruition yet. So we have not done this work in the past. We think we can continue to contract this work out, and we made a decision that that's in the best interest of the district. It's not consistent with the rest of the work that we do.
Is there any parts of the work that is consistent? I mean, there's the transportation of it, which includes truck drivers. There's the inspection or the supervision of things. Are there parts of it that could be or?
Certainly, we have truck drivers, we have people that haul liquid waste, et cetera. It's just interfacing with integrating district staff with a contractor is challenging, and we don't want to impact their operations. So we decided that we will package that directly with the contractor, completely with the contractor.
Does some of this waste, you say it goes to our sites? Does some of it go to the wastewater treatment plant? Some of it's elsewhere. Is that right?
So the slurry waste goes to two facilities out at Briones and Oakport. It's processed, and you essentially end up with some dry waste and the liquid. The liquid is tested, and most of the times it's treated at our main wastewater treatment plant, and then the solids are generally hauled off to a landfill.
And my last question here is this seasonal work or temporary work? Is this work that we're going to be doing on into the future, in the foreseeable future?
It is ongoing work, and will proceed in the future.
So daily, weekly?
Yes, daily, weekly,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm having trouble seeing this as not part of our work, frankly.
If it were not on our facility, we would take it to another contractor. I mean, it just happens to be on our facility.
Yeah, I think what Mike's trying to get at is, when you look at the different types of materials, we don't deal with things like asphalt. We're also not the only one doing hydrovac excavation. There are, PG&E, a lot of utility companies. There will probably be a point in time where somebody is going to set up a company saying, I will take all this slurry waste, and we just dispose of the slurry waste, and they deal with all the liquids and the solids, as opposed to us getting into a whole new line of business of dealing with slurry waste. And so this, I think what Mike is trying to get at is this is hopefully, will tie us over for this period of time, and, likely some, will get into this business, as opposed to us getting into a whole nother line of business that's not really our line of business, which is disposal of slurry waste.
Yes.
I'm with Marguerite here. I'm a little bit at a loss. Maybe I just don't understand. Can you explain not the nature of the slurry waste, the nature of the process that it gets from where it's excavated? Is it our excavators
Yes.
that remove this? And then what happens after that? You get all this slurry, and how is it transported to our facilities?
So it's transported in our vacuum excavators. They have a tank on the back, dumps it into a tank, and through a series of essentially some settling processes, you separate the solids that are in. It's mostly liquid, but you settle out the solids, and you take off the liquid off the top, and you dispose of those separately.
And the solids go to Briones, and the liquids go to our wastewater treatment plant.
The solids go to a landfill, yeah.
Right.
right.
Well, so I'm certainly believe in the principle of having district workers do as much work as we're qualified for, and that you know, and I understand a lot of times things come to us. It's seasonal. It's not really our baseline type of work, and you know, I'm assuming there's some sort of equipment here, as you've described, that separates the liquids from the solids. We probably don't have equipment for that. Maybe it makes sense to invest in that eventually if this is ongoing work or not. Maybe it's, you know, it's too specialized. But it seems like some of the transport and things like that, that there is an opportunity for district workers on a permanent basis to be able to do this kind of work.
And the equipment that the contractor needs is part of this agreement that you're signing. So they're providing all the equipment to treat the waste.
I'm prepared to move the item.
I'll second that.
And I understand, again, you know, the board's questions, and again, it's one of those things, and I think as Mike was describing, you know, just take asphalt example. When we rip up a road, you know, we dispose of the asphalt as an asphalt recycling facility. We don't set up our own asphalt recycling facility and then take the materials and haul it off in some location. Hydrovac excavation has become a more commonly used source, and if there was a company out there right now, we would just take that and dump it at that facility. It doesn't exist right now, but we foresee in the future somebody's going to see this as a business opportunity to do this. And as opposed to us buying and owning all this equipment and then in the long term owning and managing our own slurry waste when we would just dispose of it in some location. And so, you know, we see this as you know, let's let the business develop where there's a place where we can dispose of slurry waste as opposed to us running this business.
How long has this potential business opportunity existed that isn't?
How long is the pilot going to be going on, Mike?
We started in 2019 with a pilot.
No, not us. No, this idea that somehow there's going to be some company that comes along and says, hey, we're the slurry waste processor of choice. PG&E, Oakland, Berkeley, you know, East Bay Mud, all you folks that are digging up the street, bring your slurry to us, or we'll come and get your slurry and take it.
Right.
Nobody has come up and developed this business yet.
Anywhere in the country?
I don't know about that.
No, I think there are other
So we're
companies that do that.
speculating that
Yeah.
at some point in the future, there will be a new industry that's developed that takes slurry waste, but does it exist or not exist? And if it doesn't exist, this idea that somehow we're doing this because at some point there's going to be some company that will do it, and so then we wouldn't use district forces to do it. I'm not quite convinced all the way that that's the case.
There are companies, but not within the, you know, locally. What's happening in the Bay Area right now, for example, PG&E contracts with a company that takes their slurry waste just like we are. That's sort of the business model for the Bay Area at this point.
All right, I want to recognize we have a motion by Director Millen and seconded by Director Coleman, and recognize Director Coleman.
Question, granted, we're hoping that down the road there will be a company. Have there been discussions among the GM level with the other water agencies, wastewater agencies, local government that could help move the needle to have some sort of company out there in terms of disposing of this, or to take the product and properly dispose of it?
Yeah, not at the GM level right now. It's been happening at the staff level.
Well, it might be appropriate that it gets that it gets elevated to the GM level to actually look at what the opportunities may be from a financial model, and also to find out, is there local government someplace in the country, I think going to Doug or Marguerite's question, that does do this as a model to replicate or have replicated? I think there's a lot of research that still needs to be done.
Andy?
Yeah, I'm mindful that we, need these services continuously, and we have previously authorized this contract, and we don't, currently have the equipment, today to do this. So we do need to move forward with the services that we need. But I think it's important to, develop a board understanding about the long-term direction we want to go in if we were to approve this contract. And I share the skepticism that Director Young and President Linney expressed. It does seem like this is consistent work that our forces are capable of doing, and that means I think we would be looking to. I think we should be looking to investigate the feasibility of doing this work in-house. And I think we should have an appropriate committee of the board receiving a presentation of that nature to see what circumstances are preventing that from happening, if there's some sort of coordination that we could be doing, or a procurement plan, or I don't know enough about this industry and the way this portion of the industry and the way it's working. And what the barriers are. Why has another business not been formed up until now, or in the circumstances around the country where a business has formed? Why is that? And I think that kind of observation could help us assess whether it makes sense for this to be a public utility, a municipal utility function. And I'm open to this being a municipal utility function that we would employ directly as a service that could be shared among governmental entities.
Make money on it.
And yeah, we could operate it not for profit, but to develop operational efficiencies for ourselves and peer agencies and private sector customers. That's one thing. I'm also kind of mindful that we do need to advance electrification in all sorts of vehicle industries, and this kind of medium or heavy duty dump truck is an area that's not going to clean up easily without the right either incentives or governmental actions. And I'm thinking about what's the right way to get some of these fleets cleaned up in the long term. So but primarily for the to minimize contracting out under our obligations under the EBMUD Act, I really do want to make sure that we develop some board understanding of how we're going to review this going forward, because it does seem that we're kind of stuck if we don't continue to authorize some services, and it may take us some time to develop a plan. But I don't want to just be doing this and extending this contract without a better understanding of the market and what our choices are for being able to do the work ourselves.
I have one more question. There's in the BD1 paragraph that work under this agreement is subject to current prevailing wages for each craft as established by the Director, Department of Investor Relations of the State of California. The service provider, BTI, is licensed to perform work in California and this is what I don't know, and is not on the State Department of Industrial Relations department list. BTI and its subcontractors are properly registered with the state DIR. Does that mean, if I may be reading this incorrectly, but does that mean that actually BTI is not subject to prevailing wages?
They are subject to prevailing wages, and they're not on the debarment list.
Yes, that's a good thing.
Oh, the debarment list. I'm sorry, I read Industrial Relations Department.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's an Emily Latilla moment.
If I could, I'd be interested, Eric, to give you another opportunity to respond to some of the information.
Thank you, Director. I would like to note that these two facilities are on district premises. They're basically tanks. BTI will rent us the equipment if we don't want to have a big capital investment. We've already invested, I think, a lot of money in providing the ramps to drive up to these tanks. What we're asking for is an additional operator and a utility laborer to actually manage the tanks. So you're separating the water from the dirt and connecting the water portion into a Vector truck that can deliver it to SD1 and dump it there. If contractors needs to take the solids portion to the landfill, so be it. We're asking to bargain over these union jobs and keep these additional positions in-house.
Has this, and I guess I'm addressing this generally, has this item come up to the committee that usually talks about these issues and goes back and forth? Yes.
We had a presentation given to the contracting out committee that gave us the results of their pilot project. It was a 2-year-long pilot project. In that presentation, they told us that the district doesn't have the resources to staff these facilities to manage the slurry waste. And we acknowledge that. There aren't extra utility laborers and extra heavy equipment operators waiting for work here. You need to create those additional positions to be able to manage this slurry waste. It's part and parcel with the job. The use of the employment of vacuum excavators at the district is something that has been happening since 2010. So it's relatively new function of our work, but the district has recognized that these are very useful and important tools and has expanded adoption of these vacuum excavators. So slurry waste management will continue at the district, and it will increase at the district as we continue to increase our pipeline goals and deal with increasing congested utilities and infrastructure. The work is not going away. These slurry waste managements are currently on district premises, and it should be district work that deals with managing those tanks. We don't really need outside people to come in and manage district facilities on district premises, especially when it's being discharged at the main wastewater treatment plant that we should be very conscientious of. You know what, we're putting down the drain at SD1, right? And in fact, BTI had a big problem with that early on in their contract when they were doing their pilot scale work, and got a violation from SD1, and were told not to discharge at SD1, so they ended up having huge contract cost overrun, having to dump all the water at the landfill and haul all the water to the landfill. They've since added some filters to their process. I understand their process has improved since that initial violation, but the district should be in control of these facilities.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, can I ask you a question? Just on the 5-year contract, are there off-ramps for us if we wanted to end the contract sooner?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, and so may I suggest to the board, I mean, we can come back to the committee to talk about this one. I mean, generally speaking, just when we deal with waste, and again, asphalt is just one example of it, I really want to kind of make sure that the work that we're doing stays focused on, our core. We're not doing with waste disposal. If a company like this existed, and we can convene general managers and talk about this, we shouldn't get in the business of, like slurry management, but just to move this forward, could we move forward with this project, but we will come back to a committee to talk about the different options. I will reach out to the general managers to see if there's an opportunity to create a regional business to handle this, or, as the board may have suggested, maybe we be that regional business and take other services. But to the extent that I really would like to try to stay within our lanes in terms of our core work and disposal of waste, I don't generally consider our core work on the water side for slurry waste. But that said, I hear the board's concerns and can look into all those issues, but understand that there is an off-ramp that after we talk to the committee and share with the information we find, that it may not go all 5 years. So that's one possible option to consider.
Yeah, I'm feeling that the line between what we do and, or the lanes, if you will, is a little bit blurred or perhaps slurred in this circumstance. And I just, I'd like to see us take another look at it. I don't, obviously this is a daily thing, we've got, and we don't need to hold this up. As long as we're clear, there's some off-ramps here that aren't like, oh, well, all these things have to line up to be able to be able to make it, change it at the 2-year mark or the 3-year mark, then.
Yeah.
I'd like to have actually a set, I mean, I appreciate there's,
Yeah.
we can give them X amount of notice and we're done, but I'd like to have some kind of bright line that we're aiming towards with a very clear process. We obviously, if we have to hire more people to run it or et cetera, we're talking about the biennial budget process, et cetera. So I'd like some bright line if I'm going to support this motion, otherwise I'm going to have to vote no.
Yeah, and-
Did you have a comment? I couldn't tell.
Not really. What I am waiting for, and I'll wait till the next round, you see, whereas this looks like a large item on our budget, it's a small item in terms of the industry, and whether or not enough of these spoils and kinds of matter can be brought by several water districts so that somebody in between makes a company to do this. We're not into the finite of every spoil or everything that comes through us. We're more into water related things. This has got concrete, it's got everything you can think of coming into it. So it takes a lot of deliberation. I'm just saying, I'm waiting for the staff report to come back because it may, if we take it on, it's like we're taking on a new business, and that's a major decision.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I heard a little bit. I heard from Eric particularly about the staff that would be on site at the wastewater treatment plant servicing the trucks, and I think that was something that I think deserves appropriate exploration, as well as the driving of the trucks themselves to disposal locations.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those deserve independent but both important consideration.
Sure. And you can imagine that if you need one operator, you need several operators because some people need to take vacations and have different shifts and et cetera. So we'll have to do some more analysis on the staffing appropriate for this.
We're also vacant on a number of those positions that would be covered by that, right, that we haven't filled, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think Eric mentioned earlier today, as far as the vacancies, but, if you think about heavy equipment operators or heavy transport operators, we have 50, 60 of those positions. I think there's just a couple of vacant right now, so that's, well below our normal vacancy rate, just the normal churn.
Right.
I think on the paving side, we're nearly fully staffed right now.
Yes.
On the paving side, so having, 1 or 2 vacancies is not unusual just in that particular area. But as far as Director Young, your particular comment, we are going through the budget cycle, the FY 24-25 budget cycle, where we would contemplate positions. So we could come back at the, the first workshop and talk about, this further and answer some of the questions the board had with regard to this. Kind of the
in
approach.
addition to a committee examination of this, or are you now saying maybe the workshop is the better place?
Well, we could bring the workshop, we could bring it to a committee. I know we're already coming to the committee later this year to talk about, some of the other items that the board asked about in terms of paving and other types of issues. So, I'll try to see how I can fit it in, if I can get into a committee, but, definitely by a board workshop for the budget.
All right.
Which happens early next calendar year.
Marguerite, does that take care of your concerns?
Yeah, as long as, we're not just basically saying we're not gonna take the off ramp. I mean, it's like you're hearing serious mean, it goes towards this whole issue of what do we contract out, what do we not contract out, what's our work, what's not our work. I do hear, I feel like I hear more, it's not our work than it is our work. I mean, I know that most of our work is our work, but, and maybe it's only because these things come to us as contracts to approve, and so that's the way it feels, but, you know, I think Eric has made a number of good points, and I'm you know, I'm still, yeah, I'm still unconvinced, but it's something we're not in a position to do anything else at this point either, is what it seems like. So if we are definitely, you know, sort of taking it up as an item within our budget process coming up early in 2023, then I can sort of begrudgingly support the motion.
All right. Without repeating what Marguerite said, I think I'm in the same place where I just think there's something here that warrants a little further investigation.
Mhm.
And I'm satisfied that it sounds like we have a plan for doing that. All right, any other comments? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Carries unanimously. On to item 6. I think we also had a speaker for this. Eric.
Thank you, President Lenny, board members, and Director Chan. Similar to item number 3, AFSCME 444 objects to contracting out. However, this is our core bargaining unit work. We object to the $1.3 million increase in annual spending over the last year, and we object to the $4.9 million award for contracts of our core bargaining unit work. The district is required under the Municipal Utilities Act and Civil Code 11188 to create sufficient number of positions for the operation and maintenance of district facilities. Rental trucks being used every single workday does not meet the quote peak workload statement which management uses as a reason for contracting out dump trucks. The district employs truck driver 2 classifications, heavy transport operators, and water distribution plumber 4 positions. We need our truck driver 2s, heavy transport operators, and plumber 4 positions filled, and the increasing workload requires additional positions to control costs and reduce the reliance on contract services. Thank you.
All right, did this item go to a committee?
This item hasn't recently gone to a committee, and maybe I can just share some additional information with the board on this particular item. You know, we are, last year, I think we came to an amount of about 4.3 million. This one's an increase to 4.9 million. And when we look at what's driving the increase, there's been a 25% increase in the hourly rate of dump trucks over the last 3 years. And so when you factor in the hourly rate increase and the mileage difference between the previous years and this year, our usage of dump trucks, you know, per mile, factoring the cost, is actually lower than it was in previous years. The board may recall a couple of budget cycles, we did add 9 positions to support the FM&O. And one of the things that we are also looking at, and I think we discussed in the mid-cycle budget, is on the dump trucks, because as the board's aware, our long-term plan 5 years from now is to develop the quarry site, which is locally. And so we're being very cautious as we look at this analysis of how many positions do we bring on, because that haul time is going to be decreasing. You know, we want to do a direct haul to that location. So we're going to look at this and say, you know, do we temporarily continue with the FM&O, or do we bring people on because we think we're going to need all those people? That's part of the analysis that we discussed at the mid-cycle, because we know in 5 years, you know, we're not going to be driving, and FM&O drivers aren't going to be driving, you know, like an hour plus to that final resting point. So this is an area where we do want to be a little cautious about how we staff up. And that analysis is happening right now in terms of the quarry site. And the quarry site right now, I mean, there's nothing in there that looks like that's not going to happen so far.
So this is really tide us over until we know what we're gonna need in terms of additional.
I think it's in part tying us over, in part we want to do analysis to see, like, do we just need more people to direct haul? That's going to be looked at in this budget cycle. And also, just as a reminder to the board, although the dollar amount is increasing, the actual usage is going down, but we're seeing some inflationary costs. So, the numbers are going to go up, costs are going up, and, to Director Coleman's point, but it doesn't mean that we're using more FMNO trucks,
Are any of these union trucking companies?
Mike?
Not sure. We could look into that.
I think I've asked before that we understand who we're certainly in our trench soils, off-hauling, that was a question I had because we had such a problem with compliance.
Yeah, you brought that up before, and that was something we were going to address in November as part of a previous committee discussion.
Okay.
And it's all prevailing wage.
I will move the item.
Second.
All right, motion by Director Colon, seconded by Director Mellon. Any further comments, questions?
This concern.
Yeah, this is certainly an item that's been before us before. We've talked about quite a bit. I personally feel like I'm looking to staff to provide good analysis, to minimize the use of this as much as possible. I think the fact that we've added 9 new positions shows some progress. Some might say too cautious. Others would say, appropriate for where we're at and the conditions that we're at right now. And again, I'm glad we're having this discussion. In this case, I think I'm ready to support this motion. All right, no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Carries unanimously. Thank you. That completes our consent calendar. We're on to determination and discussion.
Yes, so I am pleased to bring to you for your consideration the appointment of Orlando Leon as our new Chief Information Officer. Orlando has over 20 years of experience in information technology. Most recently, he spent 6 years at California State University, Fresno as their CIO and Vice President for Information Technology. Prior to working at Cal State Fresno, he worked at Hewlett-Packard, Oracle, UC San Francisco, and Stanford. At Cal State Fresno, he provided technology services to around 2,700 employees and 25,000 students. He helped develop their technology strategic plan, as well as overseeing their cybersecurity activities. Orlando has a bachelor's and master's degree in electrical engineering and computer science, and a bachelor's degree in management science, all from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
All right. We have a motion?
I will move.
Okay, moved by Director Young, seconded by Director Patterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
That's Frank abstained, 1 abstention. Passes on a 6-0-1 vote.
Is he here?
He is here, and
Come on up.
We make it a practice to allow yourself to introduce yourself a little bit or say some remarks.
I appreciate it. President Linney, Vice President Coleman, board members, General Manager Chan, thank you so much for having me here today, for taking the time, but also your trust and hopefully not blind faith in appointing me as your next Chief Information Officer. I'm so excited to be here. I spent many years just growing and learning, and there's a lot for me to learn as I transition out of higher education, but I'm very excited to join the team. I sent a long email with a lot of requests yesterday to Sophia and to members of my team, and they enthusiastically responded, probably in the midst of all the other work that they're doing. So just to get myself a good running start as I start next week. I'm really passionate about innovation, but really the investment into technology, and I hope that through partnerships with you and others in the community to support efforts of all regards, not just technology, but for example, supporting underrepresented communities, minorities in the communities. I do a lot of work in diversity, equity, inclusion, for example, in the San Francisco area, but also nationwide. So I'm looking forward to working with each of you. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you want to have a conversation. I'm happy to meet with any of you. Thank you very much for the time.
Great, congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Next is a resolution to continue to hold meetings via teleconference under Government Code 54953E. We have Dave Briggs here, Director of Operations and Maintenance, to provide a brief COVID update prior to the board considering this resolution.
Okay, thank you, Clifford. Good afternoon, President Linney. Good afternoon, board members. And on slide 2, you'll see some data just for context. The upper chart shows the positive case rates in our counties per 100,000 residents, and you can see that it's declining over the last few months or so. It's hard to see from this chart, but it's below 20 at this point and declining. A lot of metrics at this point have been on steady decline for the past few months. The one that I would also highlight is the wastewater concentration, or the concentration of COVID in wastewater, not only at SD1 but also at Central San. They've almost returned to what I would say is ambient levels. You can see in the time series here on the upper chart that there are various quiet times between the peaks, and so a lot of the wastewater data has returned back to ambient levels at this point, or is approaching it rapidly. So that's a good sign. The lower chart shows the employee positives, which at this point is up to 908. This data is through last week. And if we prorate the August numbers, we still should be below July, so we'll see hopefully a decline in our own employee positives in the past few months. And that's assuming that we maintain the relatively low positive rate we have at the district right now in the last couple of weeks that we've seen. And for safety protocols, not a lot of newsworthy items, but I will say a couple of subtle things has kind of transpired over the summer that I think does make a meaningful difference in how we manage the pandemic. As the board knows, in June, California DPH, and then later on the CDC, I think the state of California led the way on this one, with a more relaxed quarantine requirement, which if you're asymptomatic, it doesn't matter what your vaccination status is. If you're exposed and asymptomatic, you're not obligated to quarantine. If you look at it another way, if you're feeling okay, or if you're feeling ill, don't come to work. I mean, so that's kind of a common sense item that's more standard advice as opposed to one that would be in play during a pandemic. But another indication that the intensity of the pandemic is hopefully starting to unwind. But that makes a lot of sense, and that certainly makes things easier at the district. Just a couple of weeks ago, we rescinded our own outdoor mask requirement. Not many agencies had an outdoor masking requirement, but we did. We felt it was more protective for employees, so we kept it along, just try to reduce the risk at the workplace. But a couple of weeks ago, we felt the time was right to walk that back, and it was also a couple of days before a pretty big heat wave. So we were planning on rescinding it a little bit later, but when we saw the heat wave coming, we knew that we could give the staff more of a relief if we accelerated it, so we did. Just a reminder that nearly all the positive cases that we've seen at the district, and certainly the past surge and the surge before, have occurred. The contraction has occurred outside of the workplace, not here at work, and we have not seen any office-based transmissions to date. We have had employee-to-employee transmissions, but they've been in a shop or outside or in one of our service yards. We suspended our testing in early July. We had been testing with our own program here at EBMUD for about 9 months or so. And typo there, no longer performing contact tracing for outdoor exposure. That was a requirement that came through California DPH and County Health as well as Cal OSHA. By simplifying the definition of what close contact is, another way to reducing the amount of contact tracing that we do, and that simplification has definitely helped. Otherwise, with all those 4 or 5 bullets aside, everything else stays in place with the face coverings and the self-checks and a limited form of contact tracing. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that our own positive case rate is down roughly 1 or 2 a day, which does not sound good, actually. We'd certainly like to see that as 0, but it is down from a larger number that we've seen during the surges, which has been up to 8, 9, or 10 a day. We only have less than a dozen employees who are presently unable to work or telework because they have COVID. That's not a surprise. Our positive rates are down, and since the quarantine requirements are so much more narrow, that greatly helps our ability to get people back at work and making them make a productive contribution every day. No operational impacts due to COVID. We do have supply chain issues, but they're by and large not related to COVID, more related to an absence of truck drivers, and no employee is presently hospitalized due to COVID. So like we always do and have been doing, we'll keep an eye on everything and try to stay in front of it, stay on the front foot, anticipate what the health agencies, federal, state, local, may be doing and be able to react to it quickly, and also inform our employees and unions ahead of time before we contemplate any changes. We've hopefully been very good and very consistent with that so that no one's surprised by anything. We will consider lifting the indoor mask requirement maybe later this year or early next year when hopefully things will continue to improve. And the contact tracing continues. It's a task we perform and have been performing for quite some time. So that's the state of things. And the last slide, Clifford or Derek, do you want me to read this into the record, or do you want to take it over?
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, so just on the last slide here, before I think you act, just a reminder that Section 54953E of the Brown Act requires the board to make findings to continue to meet virtually. That's the state of the Brown Act now. And that requires a state of emergency under the California Emergency Services Act has been declared and is in effect, which it is. And state or local officials have imposed or recommended measures to promote social distancing, or as a result of the emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health or safety of meeting attendees. And with that, I think I'll leave you with the resolution.
David, real quick, I have a question. Are we seeing at wastewater a continued decrease for COVID?
Absolutely.
And has it been substantial? I mean, that's a sort of a lagging indicator?
No, it's a great leading indicator.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the canary in the coal mine.
And so it's going down then?
Yeah, and not only, so it's going down steadily at SD1, steadily at Central San, and then all of the actually statewide wastewater is reported and consolidated through a state website. Mm-hmm. That's all trending down well. And they track the variants, so we know that all the variants that we've seen in the subvariants, they're all trending downward pretty steadily and have been for months.
Now, segueing a little bit on the wastewater question, are we testing for monkeypox? Are we going to be testing?
Yeah, and I believe we are. And Don's here; he can speak to it more specifically. But yeah, we've been testing for monkeypox, and I believe the levels that we're seeing aren't as high as, say, in other cities like San Francisco.
Sure.
But we have detected monkeypox. And Don, correct me if I'm wrong.
We have, absolutely.
Don, you have to come up.
Yeah, really.
It's the scariest one. We actually have been testing for monkeypox for a little more than a month, and it looked like it peaked in about mid-July, and then it started going down after that. I'm not exactly sure where it is today, but that's what we've been seeing. And this is something that we've been working with UC Berkeley and others. Verily, which is a Alphabet company, has been doing a lot of the work for us and other wastewater treatment plants in the area.
What about polio?
Polio is a good question. I think,
Yeah, I mean, they recently found it in New York and a couple of other countries. I can't remember their.
England primarily.
Yeah, and then there was one other one, but I think they are actually looking for polio, and I think that one of the problems with polio is that it is an active vaccine. So if somebody has had the vaccine, it may appear to be an actual outbreak, or it could be that it's either somebody with polio or somebody that's just got the vaccine for polio. So it's a little, it's not as accurate as SARS-CoV-2 and monkeypox, actually.
All right. Thank you very much. So we have an item here for a vote. Any further discussion?
I'll move the item.
All right, moved by Director Coleman, seconded by Director Patterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any
I
abstention?
put my eye in.
Okay, so that's unanimous vote, 7-0. In
Can
support
I-
of this.
If I can also comment, I did see that we are implementing, I think I heard that we're implementing the reduced time for quarantine per the new, the state's guidance. I think that's what I had heard. My understanding is that the modified guidance for quarantine does highly depend on use of a high-quality mask. So I wanted to ask what how we're integrating that feature into the way we provide masks or provide guidance to employees about use of high-quality masks if they're returning from a quarantine.
Yeah, so the requirement to avoid quarantine is to test after 3 to 5 days and to wear a face covering. High quality, I think these count. It doesn't, well, actually, I think this is an N95. It doesn't specify being an N95. However, high quality, I don't think involves an N95 per se. It could be a normal face covering.
Like this?
Well, yeah, that's what my understanding is that the branded masks, while they look great and they may be appropriate for some circumstances, would not fall within the definition of a high quality mask for that purpose. So you may want to check.
Yeah,
on
well, why don't we get a formal response on that specifically?
Start doubling
And
up
that's
again.
that's for people who have who are returning from a short 5-day quarantine where public health professionals have widely criticized the CDC's have found infectiousness. So it does make sense that we would be vigilant about the quality of a mask for people who have had positive infections returning to work.
All right. Thank you, Dave, for that presentation. We're on to item number 11, which is to consider a resolution to authorize an amendment to the agreement for employment for General Manager Clifford Chan, to provide for a merit pay increase of 10% to the base salary, and to extend the agreement for an additional 3-year term effective August 29th, 2022. Pursuant to Section 54953, subsection C, subsection 3 of the Government Code, the Board of Directors is providing an oral report prior to making action on this agenda item regarding the salary schedule, and compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits to the General Manager. In accordance to the employment agreement with the General Manager, the Board may authorize base salary increases to the General Manager based on annual performance evaluations conducted by the Board. As such, it is recommended that the General Manager receive a 10% increase in his base salary and an extension of 3 years to his contract effective August 29th, 2022. So I'll need a motion on this.
Move.
Okay, moved by Director Patterson, seconded by Director McIntosh.
Just treating me bad.
Maybe my hearing's just better on this side. I don't know. Let's see, we're missing Frank, but let's go ahead and have a vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. We have carries with a 5-0, a 1 abstention vote. All right, we're now on to item number 12, agenda item 12, which is to take action pursuant to Assembly Bill 408, codified as Municipal Utility District Act Section 11852.5, to either 1, appoint the sole candidate running for election in Ward number 2, John A. Coleman, and Ward number 4, Andy Katz, or 2, proceed with the election in each of these wards. By way of explanation, Assembly Bill 408, or the MUD Act Section 11852.5, allows the board to appoint a sole unopposed candidate or to proceed with an election. The district received confirmation from the elections officials in Alameda and Contra Costa counties that John Coleman, director in Ward 2, and Andy Katz, director in Ward 4, were the sole candidates to submit qualified nomination papers for their respective wards during election nomination period. Might add, Margaret Young was not so lucky. Accordingly, this section requests the board to either appoint directors Coleman and Katz for 4-year terms beginning January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2026, or to hold elections in Ward 2 and 4. Appointing unopposed candidates saves the district and its ratepayers the cost of holding elections. Are there any comments from the board before we take action? Any reasons you'd like to have an election, John?
I'd like to save the district $400,000.
That's great. All right, I'll take a motion then.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Director Patterson. I'm sorry, Director Mellon made the
Give it to
motion.
Director Patterson, it's fine.
And I think I heard a second by Director Lisa McIntosh. All right. We'll take a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Carries unanimously. All right.
Okay.
Thank you guys for saving us so much money.
Yes. By being good candidates.
And I don't have anything for the general manager's report, so that is it for me.
All right. We'll then move to reports and director comments. The minutes from the August 9th Planning and Legislative Human Resources Committee meetings are included in your packet. We will now receive reports from the July 22nd Upper McCollum River Watershed Authority meeting and the August 10th Los Vaqueros JPA meeting and this morning's Finance Administration Committee meeting. Director Coleman, you can start us off.
Great, thank you. At the UMRWA meeting on July 22nd, we did meet at Party Reservoir. Boy, for the first time, I think, since the pandemic began. We've had meetings prior up there, but they were held in Valley Springs a couple times. We went through a lot of things on our forest project reports, the budget for 2023, water quality and monitoring. We also had an update of the fire that was in that region and the impacts of it. And we did approve a consulting contract agreements with our 2 support personnel. And we had a good productive meeting. And just as a side note, there's also an ad hoc committee of the JPA that is meeting periodically. That includes myself, Jackie Armendi, and Richard Farrington, thank you, to look at some of the details of the JPA. So that's the report.
All right, thank you. Director McIntosh?
Yes, I attended the Los Vaqueros Reservoir Joint Powers Authority meeting on August 10th as an alternate to John Coleman. And during that meeting, we adopted to, we decided to continue remote teleconferencing of the meetings of the Board of Directors from August 6th, 2022 to September 5th, 2022. And finally, we did interview one individual for the title of Executive Director. And that's it for Los Vaqueros Reservoir JPA.
All right. Finance Administration Committee, Director Patterson?
This morning, we held Finance and Administration Committee and considered the monthly transaction reports for both the month of June and July. Those matters were reviewed and recommended for this board's action, and those actions were taken on the consent calendar earlier today. The quarterly financial reports were given, and then we had 3 other items introduced. On foreign-owned business policy, Barry Gordon, our internal auditor, gave us the update and the consideration for both state and national policy that we would follow. Annual internal audit report was given, and also the recommendations related to the 2023 internal audit were presented. The final item was on the applicant project process improvements, and those were heard and dealt with and moved on again for continuing refinement with input from board members. And that's the report.
All right, thank you, Bill. Please submit items for future consideration to the general manager. Do we have any director comments this time?
I need to go.
Okay. Right? Any other director comments? All right. Then with that, our next meeting of the board will be held on Tuesday, September 13th, 2022 at 1:15 p.m. This meeting is now adjourned.